Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, and the mic is just getting warmed up as the guardian of the blue paint turned writer is about to enlighten us. The show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. For this week's show, Rebuild, Retool, Can We Just Do It Already? Welcome to the Hockey Writers Inc. Join Lance and Steel as we bring you all the latest on the Flyers.
Hello and welcome back, guys, to another edition of the Hockey Writers Inc. As always, I'm your host, Lance Green.
And I'm your co-host, SteelFlyers. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special edition of the Hockey Writers Inc. For this week. We've got a very special guest sitting in. That's right, folks. We're talking about the great Joe Borek. How you doing, Joe? Happy New Year to you, buddy.
Happy New Year, guys. Happy 2022. Obviously, we have some more hockey this year. Hopefully, the taxi squads help the hockey in the new year compared to some of the issues we had in the past year. But it's always great to be talking about Flyers hockey. It was a pleasure to be invited on.
Exactly. So thank you very much, man. On the show this week of the Hockey Writers Inc., we welcome in Joe Borek. Joe is one of the writers for FlyersNittyGritty.com. He also covers the AHL Phantoms and also the beat writer for the Reading Royals. That's right. I went there. Thanks very much for joining us on the show this week, Joe. Really much appreciate that. On the show this week, Rebuild, Retool, Can We Just Do It Already? Okay. So, look, in the last couple of shows, Lance and I came up with this really novel idea that the Flyers need to start all over from the very beginning. So I've become the de facto owner. Lance has become the general manager. And now we have brought in Joe as the assistant general manager.
Mm-hmm. A meeting of the minds, so to speak.
Exactly. Right. So this is called the Hockey Writers Inc. So we bring in writers, and then this is what we talk about. Right. So here we go. Now, Lance and I came up with the fact that a lot of things need to change with the Flyers, meaning from the top down. All the way from ownership, all the way to player development, to the scouting department, to even the coaching in the minor leagues. The whole 9 yards needs to be completely gutted and start over. Okay, so now we have Lance Green, the writer extraordinaire, as the general manager of the Philadelphia Flyers. And the first thing that we did was put together a coaching staff for the big club, and that consisted of. Remind me the head coach again. Knobloch, yes?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
And that was
current Wolfpack's head coach.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Current Wolfpack's head coach was the assistant coach of the Flyers previously, under Hackstall. But I think that would be a better fit if we're going to go younger, faster, more skilled. He's very well does very well at developing that young youth that he did in Erie with the Otters, with the Connor McDavids of the world and a slew of others. And, I think he's the best available for what we need to do, a total rebuild with heading in a youthful direction rather than trying to piece together a club to get back into it when there's nothing to really get back into it or nothing coming up the pike that's that impressive. So.
Okay, so that's who our head coach is going to be. Then we had selected as an assistant coach was Rick Tocchet. Okay, we brought Rick Tocchet in because we felt that his style was a great way to teach the players how to play the Flyers way. Okay, another guy that we thought to bring in was another ex-Flyer. I mean, I know we're trying to think outside the box here, but we brought in a bunch of ex-Flyers. But
we did, yeah.
These guys do actually think outside the box. That's why we brought them in here. And the guy we want to bring in for defense is Darian Hatcher.
So, yeah, okay. Darian
Okay.
Hatcher, since his time, he left the Flyers. If you don't know, obviously, Joe, you might, but others out there listening, he went out and bought the Sarnia Sting of the OHL and was the franchise owner and head coach for a long time, 5 or 6 seasons, I believe, before he just stepped back to just being the owner. So a lot of experience there. Definitely a lot of knowledge coming from his, great NHL career, and I think it would be a nice jump up to really teach some of these defensemen that are coming up, like we said with Tocchet, the right way to play the position.
Like Cam York, for example, he would be a perfect person.
Right. Yeah. Igor Zumala, the slew of guys that are in Lehigh and still coming up the pike, overseas and everything else that the Flyers have drafted. So that's where we left off, I believe.
The thing, just as a quick side note, the thing I remember with Darian Hatcher the most that always makes me laugh is when Crosby couldn't shut up. I think it was his rookie season or his second season when he hit him, and he was just crying the entire time to the bench because Darian Hatcher hit him. That's my biggest. He was great for the Flyers, but my biggest memory, just because I was against Crosby, is always that moment with Darian Hatcher.
And then not only did he hit him, but he was spitting chiclets. Yeah, buddy.
First season, it was Crosby's rookie year when everybody thought he was, the best thing since sliced bread, and he's a darn good player, obviously. But Darian Hatcher, being the old veteran that he was, really showed him that, the old guard
not on his ice,
right, not on his watch, and the old guard stood tall that day. So. Great memory.
Welcome to
exactly.
the
Bigs. Yes. Exactly. All right. So, Joe, what do you think so far of our? I mean, what do you think about the listing so far of our coaching staff? What do you think? Do you like that?
I really like the staff. The only guy I would question if he would be interested in the job would be Tocchet, because I don't know if Tocchet would leave the comfy confines of TNT, working a network job to be an assistant.
Agreed.
That's the only one that, but Noblat would obviously have interest in being a NHL head coach compared to being an AHL head coach. So that you would have interest in. Hatcher would still be the owner of a team, so it will be interesting what he would want to do there. But I like the concept because of the way he would fit in and teach the Flyers way. So if you're not able to bring in Rick Tocchet, because of the reason I said he would be a good guy to bring in, because that would then be your Flyers way guy. So you have somebody like that in there. So I agree with those on the standpoints, because the other thing with Noblat, as my final point, is he pushes an offense really well. He knows how to coach an offense.
Exactly.
And the Flyers need to think a little bit less offensively and just do, because they have guys like Farabee, who, like Jamie wrote about. Or was it you, Lance? I think it was Jamie, right, that wrote about how he's kind of like the current Gagne-ish.
Yeah, Jamie did.
That was Jamie.
So, like, if you can have a coach that makes him be more aggressive, like we saw when Gagne got into his career later, he just shot more and more, then that's the perfect coach to do that. So I think bringing in guys like that, also he could get maybe a guy like Morgan to be more aggressive rather than try to overplay make at times.
Yeah.
And just kind of shoot the puck like we've seen him do in the minors at times and take advantage of his one-timers. So I think he's a perfect fit for that aspect. And then you bring in a guy like Darian is a perfect fit for the defensive aspect. So.
Right. And that's what we kind of alluded to previous episode as well, with the choice for head coach doing just that, being a very open and talented, bringing the most out of guys' talents and just getting them to relax and play the game that they played since they were kids. And successfully, even at the NHL level versus the Flyers being his first game, I believe, last season, he was called up to coach because of COVID reasons. The head coach was out. And, Flyers fans remember that his first game coaching the Rangers was a 9-0 win over the Flyers.
That was
that
big stinger.
offense that Joe just pointed out that he can really bring, was evident that night for sure. And
he's a guy that I think top players, I feel like he's going to be a offensive coach, kind of like how the top players of a team love Bruce, because Bruce always goes to the top players. Noblat, I think, is going to be a guy that goes, you're my core 4, you're my core 5, and I'm really relying on your back to take us to the top. And then you have the great fill-in pieces, obviously, of a roster, like whoever you're like the Wilmans, for example, if he keeps developing the fill-in pieces of the roster. then you have the Farabee kind of leading the way as the next
charge. Yeah,
piece.
Exactly.
The
So
York
now,
on defense.
So perfect. So that's great. So there might be some guys that we may or may not be able to get, but you see kind of the framework that we're trying to build, right?
Yeah.
With those types of players, with the aspects that they would bring to the coaching staff, right? Okay, so that's why when we talked the other day on the JB and Steel show, and you were talking to me off air about how, yeah, you're probably going to want to keep more guys than we are. See, if we bring the coaching in that we're talking about, you'll be able to keep more of those type of players around because there'll be coaches there to help develop them
and put them in more effective spots.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think an issue with the Flyers has been Sanheim. Like, for example, to use Travis Sanheim, who's actually been one of our better defensemen this season, but he just makes those standout mistakes. That's why I think he gets scapegoated, because his mistakes are sore thumb mistakes that you can really point to them.
Right.
But I think a big reason why he's taken longer to develop is because he was, when you drafted him, more of a push the pace, use his big body to skate and move up on the play defenseman, not the steadiest all around, and you try to develop him into that, which obviously we've seen guys like Brady Shea, for example, with Carolina. They did that smoothly and efficiently, and he became a very good defensive defenseman, and now isn't as good offensively, but that's fine because he's such good on both sides. The Flyers didn't do that as efficiently. So they could have just allowed him. He might have honestly had a better start to his NHL career if he had, one, the better coaching to be as efficient as Carolina developed Shea, but also, two, just the fact that they let him be himself more and let him just naturally, because he had the talent, I think, to naturally develop into an all-around defenseman in time, where sometimes I think the Flyers push guys too much to be something they're not early in their career, and then that kind of affects them negatively.
See, Lance?
Speaking to the choir, for sure. And another good example of that is Sam Moran, too. If you look back to juniors, he was a big guy. Yes, he fought. Yes, but he could and did step up into the play a lot offensively. And then once the Flyers got a hold of him, they totally wanted to change him and make him more defensively stay-at-home defenseman, which, I mean, his size and everything, granted, that'd be probably a good thing, but it wasn't a natural transition. It was kind of like, you're going to change day one. And, Shel Samuelson and all that didn't really pull that off effectively in my mind. That's just one that sticks out to me as well over the years that really, was stunted by them. And I think AV did that as well to multiple players, not allowing them to play in their natural position, playing them opposite wings, forcing guys like Nick Seeler to come in and play right-hand shot side when he's a natural left. Really works out for a temporary short time, but not overall for a good number of games like they were chosen to do. So, yeah, just, Flyers history doesn't precede them that well in those regards. They keep making the same mistakes over and over again with youth and, placing players in the wrong positions to succeed.
See, that's why, Joe, that's why I was thinking when we asked you to come in here, because I knew that you would see exactly what we're talking about here, because you follow this team as closely as anybody else does. And when you look at it with the writer's eye, or you look at it with the analytics eye and things of that nature, look, this is just the truth. Okay, so that's why we're trying to bring in players. We're trying to bring in coaching. We're trying to bring in, we're trying to bring in a whole fresh, new, different view on this.
Bring in players. If Cam York, because I feel like they're not, unless if someone tests like Austin Matthews and just gets cleared quickly, I don't think anyone's going to be available for tomorrow, assuming we can play tomorrow since TK and Sanheim have been added. But I would assume York would be playing again. If he plays the Ducks team very well, which is even with the guys out, they had Zegras, they had Getzlav, still a good offensive team with Milano.
He played a good game.
He played great. If he matches that then with a Penguins team that's been hot, that's our arch rival, you have to keep it. You have to find a way at that point to keep him in the lineup.
Yeah.
I don't because I'm not keeping Kevin Connaughton or Nick Seeler in the lineup when people come back over.
Absolutely not.
Exactly.
You have to keep him in the lineup. And
yeah, exactly.
I don't care about the whole. Oh well, is he physically ready to be? He had 3 hits yesterday.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure he's not scared to hit people. If that was Chuck Fletcher's concern, or the rest of the upper management's concern, which it seemed like anytime Fletcher would speak about it, it was. That doesn't seem like that's a concern because he had a couple blocks and he had a few hits. So he was physically involved as well as jumping up on the play.
Exactly.
I think he looked much better playing up with the Flyers than he has all year with the Phantoms, personally.
I think he did too. It's a confidence thing. You put him right on the first line. AB, I think, honestly, would have buried him probably on the third defensive line, to be honest. I think that's a difference between Yo and AB right there. So.
Okay, but I'm look.
Not saying Yo's going to be the I'm just saying that's the difference between the two. But
he almost was forced to do that. But okay, so we like the coaching staff. You like the coaching staff that we brought in. You like at least the format of how we're going to bring in the coaching staff. In the next part of the article that Lance talks about, he talks about making the moves that need to be made. And those are, and it goes back to some former articles that Lance has done in the past, rip the Band-Aid off. It goes back to the shows that we've talked about before. Look, we have to talk to Giroux and say, look, Giroux, would you like to waive your no trade clause? If you do, we'll make sure you go to a team that's a contender or wherever you want to go. Go wherever you want. Have our blessing. Please go wherever you want. Okay? Because right now, at this point in time, that doesn't do anything for the Flyers to keep him or even re-sign him. It really doesn't do them any good to do that.
From a right now player perspective, you could also look at it as, because for a while, like ever since Pavelski really has left the Sharks, and they've been grooming him into being the captain for a while. Couture's been one of the biggest leaders in that locker room. He hasn't won a cup, so he's decided to say, okay, for the time being, at least, I'm going to stick this out with my boys here. This team's starting to be towards, we're going in the middle of being mediocre, but trending a little bit up with the prospects we have. So I'm going to try to ride this out. I think it's going to come to what Giroux decides for Giroux. I think the organization's just going to say, do you still want to be here? Do you want to be that type of guy and say, this is just my city, this is just my organization, and I don't want to go anywhere else? Or will you go somewhere else? Because I feel like with Giroux, if he says, this is my city, this is my organization, which is, I think, similar to what Couture's been doing with San Jose, he just loves the San Jose area and loves playing for the Sharks, then they will honor that and say, well, then we're not going to trade you. Well, you can't. He hasn't.
They can't anyway, yeah.
But they would probably keep him around beyond that, just to have a leader, a guy that was always going to produce day in and day out. Because the thing is, even at this age, he is the only guy minus Cam Atkinson who hasn't always produced points-wise consistently, but effort-wise has always looked the same night in and night out.
Not disagreeing with you at all, man.
Yeah, nobody's going to disagree with you how Giroux is playing. He's been lights out for most of the season this year. Yeah,
everything.
Most of the season this year. Before Cam really, Atkinson really got into it in stride. He was leading the team in goals, assists, to points, everything. Still,
he's one of my favorite players.
Nobody's doubting that.
Yeah.
But what needs to happen, or what's best for the team moving forward, is something he needs to look at too. And what's best for himself? Does he want to be stuck on a mediocre Flyers team next season if he comes back, or does he want to go fight for a chance to win a cup? And if he likes it so much here in Philly, he could essentially come back next season if he wants and sign as a free agent with us. But here's one thing that we got to remember, and I wrote an article on this as well.
Less money.
Right, for much less money, because let's be honest, the Flyers have already, once Giroux said, hey, look, I'm going to stop talks in training camp for contracts, they already went out and re-signed Farabee to a much larger deal, and they signed Couturier as well to a much larger deal, which took up most of Giroux's salary that is going to be available next season. And you guys can look back, and I wrote all down the figures and all that stuff, but I mean, they both got significant raises. And most of that salary for Giroux next season is taken up by those two players already. Yeah. So there's no doubt that he's going to have to come back at a much smaller price. And we still have a backup goaltender to re-sign or find another one. We still have a whole fourth line to put back together. Half our defense has to be re-signed or bring in somebody else. There's a lot of holes that are going to be open at the end of the season. And moving on from Giroux and possibly getting some proven NHL ready prospects, in my mind, would help the team 10 years down the road, as opposed to just next season coming back and being where we are this season and fighting back mediocrity yet again. I think, like I said in my article, I think we need to rip the Band-Aid off. Nobody's doubting Giroux's talents or that he can still produce at his age. But after he goes, if he does decide at the end of the season to hang him up with the Flyers and goes elsewhere or even retire, he's still fairly young to do that. But where are the Flyers going to be if Giroux does decide to leave at the season's end? If he's fed up with where the Flyers finish out of the playoffs yet again, and where are we going to be? Who's the next Giroux in your mind? Farabee? I think Farabee's a great player. But he's not that. And Morgan Frost is not the guy that the team has thought he would be at this point, and neither is Ratcliffe. So, that's my big question mark. Do we get something for him now, or do we let him eventually walk for nothing?
Okay, so now
I think worse than we are right now.
Hold on. Let me pose this. As the owner of the Flyers now, I pose to you two gentlemen, the general manager and the assistant general manager, to make this Giroux thing work. Either make him go so I have some money to play with and I can sign some other people, or bring him back and make it so I can still bring in some other people and do some other things. Joe, give me your impression about what do you think about what we're talking about here? That's your so if either you want to keep Giroux or you want to let him go. What's your take?
Well, my take isn't really my own personal opinion, because if I was the assistant GM of the team, my own personal opinion isn't going to be what has the final weight, because the only thing that matters to me would be what he wants. So I'm going to go to the player and say, will you waive your no trade clause? Will you leave Philadelphia? And are you ready to move your family and move on and all that, yada, yada, yada. And if he says no, well, it would be great to get all the prospects and everything for him. But at that point, my hands are tied, and that's the end of that conversation. And then if he says, I will come back for a discounted rate, well, if you sign him for a good couple-year discounted rate, it's easier to even trade him on that contract if, say, you want to trade him down the line. Plus, you might not be giving him a no-movement clause in his new contract. So then you don't have that aspect either. So there's also that going where if he does re-sign for a discounted rate, he's going to be an easier trade because we still think, like we all said, Giroux's going to be producing. Yeah. So he will be even cheaper. So then you might even get more for him. But if he's like, oh, yeah, I'll waive it to go to a cup contender, then I do agree with Lance, as much as it pains me to say, because Giroux's my favorite player. It was growing up, Gags. That's why I love the Gags comparison to Farabee being the new
Farabee,
guy.
yeah, and it works good.
Now it's been Giroux since Giroux's come in the league, so it's tough to say that. But if you move on from get great players, like you trade them to somebody like the Kings, you have good prospects, you trade them to. I mean, there's teams in Canada that would want them, but minus if you trade them to and I don't want to.
I like Anaheim.
Yeah. There's teams in Canada that want him, but I don't want to put Giroux in Eugene Melnick's crapshoot of a team. So I don't want to do that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Where Montreal doesn't have the eye bombing. They have some decent prospects, but not the eye bombing.
Yeah, but Ottawa might not be a bad fit for him, though.
He lives in Ottawa, and
he does live in Ottawa, but does he want
both those teams are not going to be trading for a guy that right now that because they're both sitting out of the playoffs with the Flyers right now. So Montreal and Ottawa are not going to be buyers at the trade deadline. Let's be honest. So what I would say I would want to do is look to a team like the team we just played, the Anaheim Ducks, who are deep with prospects as well, just like LA is at the current time.
Quick question though, because you just said LA. Steel and I couldn't figure out on the one JB and Steel show when you were talking about Giroux, you brought up a prospect on LA that's a goal scorer that was a 5th round pick. Was that Chromiak or somebody else?
I think
when you had a trade proposal, you brought up one of their.
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't LA. Maybe it was.
I'm thinking it was.
I thought it was.
I'm thinking it was the Ducks. And that 5th round pick that I would want would be Sean Shigell, who currently plays. It was the Ducks.
Okay.
They just drafted him, and I really like him. He's a shooter. Really good around the net, and he was the Ducks' 5th round pick. I had him in my mock drafts as a guy that was a little underrated in my mind. Obviously, if you're looking to the Ducks, you're not going to get Trevor Zegras, Sonny Milano, Drysdale, Sam Steele, McTavish. You're not going to get those guys. They're already up and playing with the Ducks. But I do think it would be a good fit because they're a very young team of those players, and Giroux would come in immediately and help that team out to make a playoff push. Obviously, Giroux is going to have to waive his no trade clause, and I would go to him personally as a GM and say, hey, look, we're in a tight spot. We're not going to be in the playoffs this year. You're not getting any younger. Let me, trade you to a contender right now. And if you're willing to come back to Philly at a reduced rate, we can talk after this season. But what really bugs me about it is always in the back of my mind is how Giroux ended talks this offseason or this past offseason when Chuck brought it to him. He must not have heard the numbers that he liked or had a doubt in the back of his mind whether he wanted to stay or not, or else he would have just signed and said, hey, look, I'll take $4.5-5 million to come back next season, and let's be done with it and move on. I've been here this long. So that's what kind of pushes me to really look to trade him and possibly, if he wants to come back, see if he'll come back at a lesser rate next season. Obviously, he still produces, but the guys I would like is a Sean Shigell, who plays with the Calgary Hitmen right now, a Sam Colangelo, who me and Steele both interviewed previously as well, a shooter, he's a physical player, or a Sasha Pastrovo. I might be saying that a little wrong, but he played for Team USA as well. All those players are great players that are currently in the Ducks system. They have plenty of depth and could part with one of those guys because, hey, we know certain players, goaltending and other players have been and seated in the Ducks organization for a long time. Their captain, too, as well, is not getting any younger. So a push, I don't even think they thought that they would be in the position that they are right now.
I don't think so either, yeah.
You know what I mean? Given the past years where they've been drafting, they've had a lot of young talent that's been able to jump up really quick into an NHL level and has a lot of success. So I think they would be willing to cash in and maybe trade away some prospects in order to really push a chance this year before a lot of their veterans get out the door.
The one NHL guy, I would wonder because if you're bringing in Giroux, you already have Getzlaf at center. You would have Sammy. You would have Ludestrom. I would wonder if they would move one of their NHL guys since Getzlaf hasn't shown any signs of leaving until retirement. Like if you're trading Giroux, I would wonder if they would give you like if they would say, okay, like if the Flyers go, well, we want Isaac Ludestrom because we already know when we get him, he's going to slot in on an NHL line and we know exactly what we're getting. It's still going to get better, but we know what we're getting at the current.
That's what we want,
right?
Where with Colangelo and others, we think they're going to be really good and continue to progress well. But we think they're going to be very good and continue.
Absolutely,
to
prospects are still prospects until they're proven.
So I think like even with the Kings, if you get somebody like, he's not the best, but if you get their good prospects and get, say, like, I like Chromiak, I loved watching him in the World Juniors, the couple games he played this year before the IIHF screwed that up. We won't get into that.
Right.
And
Yeah, no.
so I like him. And then you add like Kapari or like somebody like, they moved this guy Velarde around a little bit. So if you can bring somebody and you can get him going, because the Flyers have fixed skating. That's one of the only things they have actually developed half decent at times with people developing their skating.
True.
Other
That's
things
true.
not as squeaky clean as their skating.
Okay.
Like I would say, like if you can get somebody that's been in the NHL and shown some inklings, that will be good, just because you already can know you can at least slot them in. Where Luderstrom's more of a magnified Elks, where if you get someone like Kapari, that would be nice. Where even and then if you can't get them, somebody like a Velarde who's at least had NHL time would be nice to get good prospects from the Kings or a team.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
That's excellent. I love the Kings prospects. Definitely, there's a slew of them that I would want to get back as well. But I don't know if I would want Brent Clark really, but that's probably out of the question. I don't know. I just don't see the Kings being in a position right now where they would buy. They're farther down the list, as far as possibility of making it into the playoffs again. So that's why I was looking more towards the Ducks, because they know they're obviously going to be contenders.
Mm-hmm. For me, it all depends. The only thing I had to say is their defense has been injured, and the Oilers' defense sucks. So, like, I think it all depends, like, what they think. No offense, Pirlo and Payton.
Yeah,
but your
right.
defense is not very good.
No.
And then depending what they think about Winnipeg, and their defense has been suspect at times, having Tucker Pullman play over 20 a night. Yeah, so if you can get people back, I feel like the Kings could sneak into that second wildcard spot, and then they have the experience. So once you get that experience, we saw it with Montreal. Get in the playoffs, anything can happen. Quick's also been good this year. He's an experienced goaltender.
Yes, he has.
That's why
definitely worth the call. Definitely worth the call to see what you got. That's why it's worth
to me, just because of the prospects. They have a deep system. So does Anaheim. So like anybody that has a deep system, to me, that kind of on the outside looking in, they would be worth a call, because you're going to be able to get somebody that's worth your while.
Here's the other thing that I know too: Anaheim and LA both have some cap space too. So let me also ask this quick question here. Giroux's contract is up at the end of this year, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So if he the only thing that I can see happening good for the Flyers is, unless he re-signs at a much discounted rate. And what I mean by much discounted rate, I mean like
bargain deal,
$4 million a year,
4.5 years,
something like that. I can't go any higher. I can't. Not with the Couturier deal, not with the Farabee deal kicking
flat cap
in.
error, yeah.
Not with that kicking in, right? And the fact
we can trade JVR, but we can get into that. We might end up getting into that later.
We will.
Just hang tight. Hang tight. Because that was also part of the plan. So just hanging on, right? So that's kind of what we're talking about, though. You know what I mean? Because that's kind of where you have to be, because you're not going to have that money. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so now we have to look at, and one of the great suggestions that Lance had, and he even wrote one of his articles about this, was doing the Phil Kessel thing. Is trading Phil Kessel to Arizona for JVR, right?
Oh, JVR for Phil Kessel. Okay.
Or Phil Kessel, right?
Yeah. So with that, I mean, if we bring that up, my idea was, obviously Phil Kessel wants out of Arizona. He's made that abundantly clear. And who could blame him with the way Arizona almost got locked out of their own rink recently? Their financial struggles.
And it's not looking good there either.
Who the heck wants to go there and sign?
Thank God they have Net to be their social media expert, because he's the only one that helped keeping that team afloat.
Oh my goodness, it is scary. I mean, obviously they've had trouble getting in players and free agents over time, and that's why they've been able to take on, or had to take on, the Shane Gostisbehere's contracts and stuff like that, because they can't get the free agent prospects or established veteran players to come in there. So in my mind, Phil Kessel is up at this season's end. He has a very similar $6.8 million cap hit right now, where Van Riemsdyk has a $7 million cap hit. And Van Riemsdyk has another year of contract left. So in saying that, Phil Kessel's obviously gone. Coyotes know that he's going to walk at this season if they don't trade him. So he will probably most likely be dealt by the deadline. So why not to the Flyers? If we traded back JVR and possibly something else along with him, maybe a late round pick or something like that for Kessel, we would be getting a proven power play specialist to help through the season, a veteran, just like JVR was supposed to be. He has been hot as of late, but where has he been all this season before that? You can't pay a guy $7 million and expect him to not perform and be this streaky, in my mind. You need him to be there every night. And I think Phil Kessel is more of that, even at this point in his career. In saying that, the Coyotes would be getting back a proven 35-plus goal scorer like they're losing in Kessel, and still have him under contract for another year. So contract for contract matches up. It makes perfect sense in my mind that they would be able to retain a guy that is a proven goal scorer for next season. So, I would at least be calling up and saying, hey, what is it going to take else to get this deal done? In my mind, it would then give the Flyers the cap space to bring back a Giroux or one of the proven big name free agents that is out there this offseason. And,
there's going to be
there's going to be a lot of big name free agents. So
exactly.
But he's projecting to be close to $9 million on the free agent market. So where that seems magical, and bringing a Jersey boy home, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that.
The roster a little
You're
bit more,
definitely going to have to finagle the roster more, and I don't know if you'll get such deals like you did for Brassard and Yandel to come in and play for pennies on the dollar. I don't see that with the way the Flyers are.
Especially even though we like the head coach, if you're bringing in a new head coach,
sure,
you don't have a lot of those guys came in because they had a reputation. They knew AV. Where unless if you have guys that you trade for from previous experiences that they had with Nobla, then right. Obviously that will help, or guys that know him from their experience in the organization. But
exactly. So that kind of puts us into a spot now where we feel that as an organization, we've all pretty much agreed that we're going to go to Giroux and say, Giroux, we're going to ask you to waive your no trade clause. Because we feel it'll be best for the organization for you to do so, unless you would like to re-sign with us. Okay. If you would like to re-sign with us, we would love to have you here. We would love to have you retire as a Flyer. I can only pay you $4.5 million a year. So, look, Chuck is obviously not having that conversation with Giroux, right? And obviously Mr. Scott is not having that conversation with Giroux.
Well, and he definitely isn't having that conversation.
And me as the owner of the Flyers, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call up Mr. Giroux and I'm going to make an appointment to go see him at his house. And I'm going to bring you guys, my general manager and my assistant general manager, and I'm going to be like, all right, here we go. No agent, no nothing. This is what's going on. Okay? If you want to bring your agent, all right, cool, whatever. But this is what we got.
Yeah,
Okay.
you talk like the two mono to mono, but we kind of been bouncing between the JVR and Giroux thing real quick. I wanted to say I like that a lot for the Kessel, just because Kessel we know is going to come in a lot cheaper than what JVR is next year. If you even kept him for a leadership perspective, of like he's always been a locker room guy, he wore an A at one time, been a captain even before, so like he's been a good locker room guy. So he's a guy you could probably only keep for a couple $1,000,000, and he would be a guy that can still pot you 20, 25 a year and be a very good power play productive guy and still solid 5-on-5 and just a mentorship guy for the young guys.
A fourth line center. What?
Center. Yeah, usually, you
or
could,
winger.
He's
whatever.
a wing. Yeah, he's a wing.
I'm sorry, fourth line winger, whatever. You know.
Unless we're pulling a Ryan Hartman with Phil Kessel and all of a sudden the dude's playing center.
Oh yeah.
Oh gosh. Anyway, so that's kind of where we're at with this here now, and so that's what we've done. That's what we've brought up. Joe, it seems like you're pretty much on board with everything that we've said. And would I be safe in assuming that?
Yeah, because Giroux, it's like it's up to him, because it is literally up to him with the way his contract is structured. So whatever the tide of he wants to go is, if he wants to go, it is better for the team, as much as it pains me to say it. From how I love them with the coaches, both of those make great strategical sense. So.
Exactly, because see, here's what we need to do as an organization. We need to find two people that we can hang banners off the side of the Wells Fargo Center. I need two guys.
Moving forward, yeah.
Right? I need two guys I can hang banners on the side of that building that's going to put butts in the seats and going to put rings on my finger. Okay? That's all I care about, right? I want to hoist the chalice. I want to drink from the chalice. Okay? Help me drink from the chalice, guys. Come on, right?
I'm hoping one of the only guys that they didn't, because if they keep him up now, I don't think they had an opportunity to mess up his development, so to speak. So if York kind of just rides it here, was Zamul is a guy they actually, I don't think, put in the wrong spot a lot of the time. That was one of the exceptions to where they've actually usually put him in the right spots in the minors, whether it's Gordon and or Lappy this year. But when it comes to York, he's the guy that is supposed to be the next big kahuna that's going to step up, provide on both sides, and kind of take the pressure off of Provorov, because Provorov's never supposed to be the do everything defenseman. He was supposed to be the let me be on your PK, let me be a great overall defenseman, not let me be on your power play, let me be on your PK.
And I think he would be he would be much better given York's up there immediately when his minutes drop. He's playing Provorov is playing entirely too many minutes now, and that's why his production has suffered. He needs to, and he won't be like Timonen and all those, and Desjardins before him. He won't be the one to step up and say he needs less playing time, but York would allow that. And I think both of them would excel if York was to stay up.
It also allows Sanheim, because you've been over pushing Sanheim at times in games. Provy struggled.
For sure.
Where if York's doing really well, as long as one of the others is doing well, whoever's not having as good of a game, you can let them step back a little bit in that game and push the other person who's doing really well. So it allows you to have a lot more flexibility there as well.
Exactly.
Instead of having a Kanadin and nothing against those guys. They fill their roles fine, but they're filling their seventh defenseman for a reason. So like that's why you don't want to be over exposing them in a season and overplaying them.
Exactly. It's sad when we're sitting here now looking at the current roster now and how we would change things now to put guys more in their position to be more successful than what the current coach is even doing now. Okay, so this is why we wanted to get into this. This is why we wanted to talk about this, is because and the whole gist of it is that, look, in the next couple of shows, I think I would like to really start getting into more of the in-depth of the players, because now that we've had that conversation now with Giroux, right? And we said, this is what we can offer you, and he's going to say yay or nay. So we have to plan for, all right, if Giroux says yay, then this is what we have to do. This is the road we have to go down. If he says nay, then this is the road we have to go down. This is what we have to do. Okay. So that's kind of what I would like to kind of pose for maybe a future kind of endeavor or a future show or future articles or something to think about in the future, because now we have the coaching set and we have the philosophy of the team set, and we already kind of have an idea of a group of players who we feel could potentially stay
Well, I
with
was
the
going to
team.
suggest, if we were going to foreshadow a thing for the future, a cool sprinkling for people would be
Yes.
maybe to list at least a couple people.
That's
that
what
would
I'm
be
getting
on,
to.
be on a
That's what I'm.
statement
You
to
see,
leave them
Joe.
with.
See, you're just a little bit ahead of me. That's what I'm getting to. Just hang tight with me here, bro. Okay. So on that note, okay, there's got to be a list of players I know that you guys would just got to be salivating, knowing the fact that certain players are going to be restricted free agent or free agents at the end of the season, knowing that the trade deadline is coming up here in the not too distant future, okay, and knowing for the fact that either we're going to have Giroux or not have Giroux, right? So you either plan for not going to have Giroux, meaning you're going to have however many millions of dollars that's not going to be paid to Giroux is now going to be available to pay for other players and other prospects and whatever the case is. And or if he is going to stay, then you have a much reduced budget moving forward. So you're going to have much less groups of players. So give me two players. Can you give me two players that you would either say keep? Yeah, let's do that. Let's do two players. No, let's go three players. Can you name me three players that you would keep on the team right now, moving forward in the new regime that we have set up here? And we'll start with Lance. Lance, can you name three players you would like to keep on the team moving forward in the new regime with the new coaching staff, with the new everything?
So as far as free agents or as far as just everybody in general?
Whomever, they can be either free agents, they can be prospects, they can be already on the team. It doesn't matter. Whomever.
It's almost like fantasy hockey, Lance. Just like the three guys you can retain in the season.
Yeah,
they have to be part of the organization.
Obviously,
they have to be part of the organization, though, right? Okay,
I got you. So people that have contracts as far as next year goes, obviously, I would want to build around Farabee. I like Cam Atkinson, and I want to see what Konechny can do. He's signed for $5 million. He's a proven 20-some goal scorer. I think if you put the right people on the line with him, right now he played with Morgan Frost and Oscar Lindblom last. Not really the greatest players to play with. That's not the line that he needs to succeed. So I really like to keep him, but but if the right person said, hey, I'll trade you this prospect or this person, this golden whatever we are going after at the time, but they say they want him, I'll listen at the same time. But I'd really like to see free agents for the team has anyway in Patrick Brown come back as a call-up guy, line 4 guy. I like Zach McEwen. I like Ristolainen. Obviously, I like him. He's a big physical presence. He's done a lot for this team. So I like that move.
Okay.
Moving forward to sign him back. Obviously, he's a free agent as well. So
right. Since you're the GM in this de facto situation, where are you going? Because my thing with Risto is he's at 5'4". I feel like I think
he drops.
Like that's his top value.
I think that's his top value. I think he was signed. Yeah, I think he was signed in Buffalo to that deal when he was still thought to be a first pairing defenseman. And he's not that. We all know he's a second pairing guy. He excels in that level. He can play a bit more physically and just more his type game. So I would be looking to really come down to 3.75 or 4.25 maybe even as a better number for me. I don't think he deserves I love him as a player, but I don't think he is at that $5 million range for his production. He does
Agreed.
a lot block shots, he does a lot of hits and all that, but we all know those type things don't generally get you the bigger dollar salaries in today's
Patrick
NHL.
Maroon paid $5 million.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right, in that case,
exactly.
yes, yeah.
Exactly. All right, so Lance, you kind of cheated a little bit, and you added in 2 extra players. So Joe, the 5 players then.
It is my show, so
yeah, right.
I'll take that luxury. Yeah.
All right. So Joe, give us a couple of players that you would like to retain that are currently with the system right now.
Well, it's the value, because we talked about this on my show too, on JB and Steel with Risto. In the value, we just want the right value. If he wants a raised contract, that's out of our purview at that point. You got to let him go somewhere else. It's a better business decision.
Shame though
for that team, which is a shame, but you can't pay him up above 5.4 for what we just talked about reasons. So, but if you can get him for what Lance said, I'm all for that. Fairby, you obviously have to keep for the reasons we highlighted on the show and the reasons Jamie highlighted in his recent article about him. Atkinson is kind of that veteran, because we're talking about having the guys that have to shoot first. It kind of helping to ingrain in the rest of the guys the shoot first mentality. That's why bringing in somebody like Phil Kessel, I love that Lance brought up for JVR too, because it brings in another guy that will just help that just kind of trickle down effect.
Exactly.
For the rest of the
can step right in too.
Absolutely.
Overly fancy when they see a veteran just getting it done that can't even move as much as he used to, but he's still scoring 25 a year because all he does is fire the darn thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I think keeping someone around like that is very helpful. And then for me, another guy, obviously, that you have to keep around going forward, I think, because he's unless you get a great trade for him, it would be your Swiss Army knife. I feel like a guy like Scott Lauden's one of those undervalued, really valuable people on a team that people like, when he's lost, you're like, oh my God, this bottom 6 is so like, it's like really where like he's one of those, you want to keep your.
There's a lot invested in him too.
Army guys around that also is not going to cost you the most abundance, because you have him around for only $3 million to 2026. So that's a pretty good contract. Okay. I think he's somebody for that reason. He's been through it all with the organization, and he's a very good two-way player.
Yeah. You would want to plays wing, plays center.
Play center. Yeah, I would want to keep somebody
third,
like that
fourth, second line, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Led the team in hits last year as well.
Exactly. It's all about building the culture, and guys like Atkinson, guys like keeping Aristo, and guys like keeping somebody like a Lutz as well. Those are really good at ingraining the other guys how to just play the game and how to go about it each day. And you might not have as much of the dead energy effect, hopefully, that we kind of had with some of our teams in the last reseason.
Awesome. That is so awesome. I agree. I really like Joel.
Don't get rid of Cam York, but that's
yeah. I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that for sure, for sure. Right, and I'll tell you another one too that I'm really kind of zeroing in on here too, and one that I really want to see is the Destroyer, Elliot Deoné. I really want to see him play in some NHL games. I really want to see how he's going to develop. I'm really excited about what I see from him. Okay. I also really like the idea of Carter Hart. That is, to me, I think there are 2 things that you need to build a team around. Number one, you need to start from goal and build out. And when you do that, and then you start from center and build back. Okay, so that's kind of how I would like to build this team as an owner. I want to start from goal, and to me, a stalwart goalie is Carter Hart. I think he is that cornerstone goalie that the Flyers really could have for the next foreseeable future, and be that number one guy, be that guy. Okay, I see that in him. I see it. I just don't see the team around him yet for him to be successful. Okay. So I also really, really like Provorov. I would like to see Provorov. I'm also big, huge fan of Ristolainen as well, too. Really like his game. Really like to see him stick around as well, too. But exactly with what you guys said. Not nearly the money that he's making now, but at the much more, 4.5, maybe 4.3, 4.25, something like that. Kind of maybe more years, maybe give him a couple more years, but make his salary a little lower. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have a problem doing that either.
And I'm fine with that because he's 26, I think, right now. So by all means,
27, I think he is. Yeah,
he'll be 27.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
On this side of 30. Yes, indeed.
Exactly. Okay. I really like your suggestion too, Joe, with keeping Lawton. I really think that's another one that is a really good one that needs to stick around too. I also really want to put Couturier as I kind of almost hesitate to say this, but I want to make him what he was in juniors. I mean, the guy scored 106 points in one season, then 96 points the next. In juniors, come on, the guy knows how to score.
You're kind of gonna have to get a Philip. What allows people to do that, like the Kopitors of the world, is the Philip Deneau to their Anze Kopitar.
Okay,
so you have to get.
You're going to have to get a guy like a Brandon Point or.
You're going to have to get somebody else that's a great second fiddle and also a two-way second fiddle, so it takes away a lot of pressure defensively.
For sure.
I don't want Couturier to be a Selke Award-winning player. I want him to be an Art Ross-winning player.
Well, with all
that
make
sense?
No, you're definitely right, and I think he could do that with the prospects that are coming. You already mentioned, Elliot Desjardins, but we also have Connor McLennan coming, who's lights out this year for the Winnipeg Ice. I really think a guy that's underrated right now is Owen McLaughlin, who was drafted and playing with the Sioux City Musketeers of the UHSL. I really, really like him. So I think, and that's a Chuck pick as well. Late round Chuck is where he does his best work. Where he does his best work late round. So all those type guys are getting to be that shoot first type player that we need. And I think that would then bring the Couturier's point totals up.
Even Atkinson, even help with Scott Lawton, even help him with Joel Farabee, and even helping with that as well too. You know what I mean?
Someone else that Chuck picked in the late rounds I like. I've been following a lot of U of Men that I'm going to do an article on soon, is Brzezinski. He's been getting better as a 7th round pick, I've thought. Since drafted him in 2019, which is kind of what you guys have been saying on the show for the long haul. For some reason, we've been picking better
later.
Third on.
Yeah, right.
Or fourth on, even in certain drafts. And then
rather than first 4 rounds.
rather than earlier. So it's weird. But if those guys hit and you get your Troy Terry of your bunch, then obviously that's going to help you in a big tenfold as well. So.
Well, and you got to remember too that Wisdom is hurt this year and all, so he's coming back as well. He was a 4th round pick, so still, they moved up to get him, but still, that's just another player that seemed, especially last season, obviously, to really get it and to really come on when he wasn't even supposed to be there with the Phantoms.
And Mason Millman wasn't supposed to be with the Phantoms on defense like he was supposed to be in juniors as well, and he got forced up. And to me, was probably at sometimes our 3rd best defenseman, and at other times was honestly the 2nd best defenseman as a rookie, just in looking like poised on the ice, like Cam looked poised as an NHL rookie in his first game. So, and he had to play the wing tonight with the Phantoms because of their COVID protocol. So he's a good player, I think, going forward as well.
But he's another left-hand shot.
Yeah, we have too many.
So that's too many left-hand shots. The guy we really need to develop is Wyatt Wiley. He's our point per game right-hand shot defenseman from Everett. And he played with Carter Hart already. They're friends or whatever. And we really need to get him up here because we are I mean, if we didn't have Risto and if we lose him, we're going to be in a world of hurt
Really hurt.
Well,
already.
it's also why we still have Justin Braun, because you
Right.
don't have
Yeah, that's a sore subject with Steel. So,
well, no,
you know.
I understand Steel hates Justin Braun,
No, look.
but I'm just
Okay, wait.
but
No, wait. Hold on. Time out.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't hate the player, and I did eat a lot of crow at the beginning of the year because I gave him a lot of credit for playing really well at the beginning of the year, but he is just way beyond his element, and good gravy.
Well, he should be on your third pairing. It's because of the Flyers' own failures that he's not looking as good. It's not necessarily because of Justin Braun. It's because of
he's playing out of his means. Yeah,
like I said,
a third pairing defenseman.
I am all for the players. I do not dislike players. Okay, I'm all for players, but I have a hard time when players constantly cost me games. I have a hard time when players constantly cost me goals, constantly cost me penalty minutes.
When you're a veteran, especially.
I don't care. I don't care how old or young you are. If you're costing me all those things, you're a liability to this team, and you're not going to be on the team long.
Right.
Well, if you're a rookie, though, that's great at offense, like we've seen some of the best offensive defensemen in the history of the league.
True,
make
but
terrible mistakes in their rookie seasons because they're offensively inclined more than they are in their own zone.
But we don't have any of those guys.
Oh, no, I'm not saying the guy we already have that actually can be good offensively doesn't have the mistake-oriented side, which is Cam York.
I don't have a problem with mistakes.
Guys like Carlson were earlier in his career because they have more of the offensive side than Cam York, but they don't have as much of the two-way side.
I agree.
He's still making those mistakes.
Yeah, Carlson still.
Oh my gosh.
So, but like he doesn't have that side. That's why I love Cam York when we drafted him and wasn't as pissed as other people about Caulfield. Because when we picked him, he reminded me of someone that was good at pushing the pace, but not unwise while doing it. Where the one thing with Sanheim when you drafted him was he would push the pace, but sometimes get caught, which you still see him do at times at the NHL.
Because he doesn't make the best decision.
Yeah, he doesn't always make the wisest decision, where York has always been more in the hockey sense.
Well, that's why they compared York to Brian Leach, of all people.
Yeah.
I mean, a good offensive defenseman, but still a very wise, beyond his years,
settle it down
defenseman. And I really am one to just keep at this point. What do you have to lose anyway? Let York play and let him stay up.
I'm with you.
I don't even care. I mean, I don't even care if Yandel doesn't reach his point. His Iron Man streak at this point.
Why do we have Sealer and Connaughton still the other seventh?
That's what I mean.
Let them be the seventh defenseman. Yeah.
Right. He's going to learn so much more up with the Flyers. I think the Phantoms really took a huge step back this year, in my mind, and they're really hurting some players' development. And they've gotten a little better recently, but I'd rather see him stay up, regardless if he doesn't even play another game. I'd rather just see him practice with the team and follow the Provorovs and everything to get him ready for next season. So
I'm with you. Well, man, I'll tell you what, guys, we did not make a mistake in bringing Joe in as the assistant general manager. What do you think, Lance?
Oh, I think it went well. I valued his opinion. I always have. He's very knowledgeable, and that's why he has his own show as well through you. Just like we said at the start of the show, a meeting of the minds we had here, and I love the feedback that he was able to bring to it.
Yeah, man, for sure. Can't wait to do another one now that we have the leadership group set and everything, so we're all set. Joe, do you have any new articles coming out that you can kind of hint at for us, or got anything new coming out? And then tell the folks where we can get you and where we can find you.
Well, you can find the articles at Flyers Nitty Gritty, just where you can find Lance's great writing as well. The one I did hint at on the show when I brought up Bryce Brzezinski, that's something I've been working on for a bit. I've been watching him at as I said. And then others I'll be doing are just on just kind of checking in. I like checking in at different times on the way our goaltenders are doing, and obviously there's no better time than ever to write another article on Felix Sandstrom, even in a losing effort, after he had a pretty good debut. So I'll be doing something on him. And then whenever Sam Yorson's able to not have injury bug issues and come back for a little bit, I was planning on writing something on him when he came back. Then he went down again. So I'm holding that for whenever he comes back again and starts playing. But
awesome
Twitter's
sauce.
also JJ Borek 26, as I say on Steel. That's the best place to find me because I don't check Facebook, minus for one Royals fan that only contacts me on Facebook.
Oh man, that's great, man. So yeah, dude, like if you guys aren't following Professor Joe, that's what we call him, Professor Joe, because he has more knowledge about hockey than most people forgot. So seriously, if you're not following Joe, you got to check him out. He's also part of the Flyers Nitty Gritty .com group. So check them out. Thanks all for the support. That's the Hockey Writers Inc. salute for the support there from the Flyers Nitty Gritty .com, and appreciate all that. Lance, you got anything new on the horizon? Talk to me, brother.
I do. I just finished one up today. I'm looking over editing and stuff right now for it. So fingers crossed it should be out sometime real soon. As far as a hint to what it would be, just an overview of good old Chuck there and some of the things he's done over the past years, and good and bad. So
that ought to be good reading. I think it's also continuing on with our theme here, I think, as well too. Yes,
I think it's been a long running yeah,
kind of. And where can we get you? Where can we follow you? And then where can we find all your great articles?
Sure. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at LNGBASSIST, the number's 39. I answer that quite frequently. You can find my stuff on Facebook as well. A lot of different Flyers groups. You can find my stuff on flyersnittygritty.com, SteelFlyers.com, just about anywhere, BleacherReport.com, wherever you want to find me. I'll be, and I'll also as well as YouTube here on this platform. Steel, why don't you tell everybody at home where they can listen to us as well?
Okay. Yeah, man, for sure. You can check out all of our great shows on all of your great podcasting platforms from Spreaker, meaning you can follow us on Apple, you can follow us on Google, you can follow us on Amazon. You can also check us out on all of your other great platforms out there that we're all on. Spotify, we're on all of them. So check us out on iHeartRadio. Anytime, any place you could get a podcast, guess what? You'll find the Hockey Writers Inc., you'll find SteelFlyers, and you'll find Off the Ball Hockey, and hopefully here real soon we'll get the JB and Steel show out there for you guys as well too. So that'd be a great addition to that as well too. Check that out. You can go to Spreaker.com, or you can go to wherever you guys get your podcasts. Please check that out. Also, the website should be, we're going to have some updates here real soon for the website where we're going to add some swag. We're going to be able to put the t-shirts out there for everybody. $25 a shirt, doesn't matter what size. All it is, $25 a shirt. I'm SteelFlyers, your co-host of Hockey Writers Inc. You can find me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52. Thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you all the next time on the Hockey Writers Inc. Thanks, everybody.